how can we turn around and make them better men? Because again, I always tell them the ball will stop bouncing one day, and this game can teach you a ton about life if you allow it.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we're joined by the head boys basketball coach of Sulphur Springs High School, Brandon Shaver. Coach Shaver is in his first season as the head coach at Sulphur Springs. They are currently 23-9 and have been ranked as high as number 7 in the state in 5A. He started his coaching career at Central High School, a 1A private school in Louisiana. Coach Shaver played at Northwestern State in 2002 and 2003. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's up, Coach?
Man, I'm good. About yourself?
Oh, living the dream.
Always, every day.
That's right. Man, I appreciate you giving up your time and coming on to talk some hoops with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you letting me. I mean, I looked back through and saw some of the people that you've had on this podcast, and it's just humbling to be a part of it for sure.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I've had a lot of fun getting to talk with coaches, and one of the goals too was to, just highlight some of the great high school coaches that we have, in this area, in this state, and so getting to learn from guys like you it's a privilege.
That's awesome. Cliff, Coach Carroll, I'm good friends with him. And so seeing that, and seeing some of those guys you've had on the past is like I said, has been pretty humbling to be able to be on it for sure.
Cliff was so much fun to learn from and to hear his story. Awesome. And yeah.
He does. He's got his background's good, and man, he knows basketball for sure. He's got UMHB going to be one of the top contenders in the country.
Yeah. One thing I really appreciated about you. So sometimes I find guys, a little bit through social media.
Yeah.
And we kind of connected through there, but I was kind of looking through and in some of the culture things and the videos that you kind of put out with your guys and the way that you're teaching them. And it got me just wanting to sit there and listen to it. And then I figured, well, this is a guy that I need to dive deeper with,
Yeah, no, it's man, I use coaching as my ministry pretty much, and so it's a different way of thinking than what a lot of coaches do. But the videos I think that you see is what we call our Man Up Mondays. We do that every Monday. I've done it the last 2 years. I didn't do it pre-COVID. It was one of those things where I kind of sat back and reevaluated as a coach. When our guys at the school that I was at then, our guys went home and a lot of times their home life was not very good. And so, my thought was, what can I do as a coach to be able to help those guys out? And whether it's good or not, whether you have a dad at home or somebody there that, this is just a reemphasis of things that we need to know as kids. And, I have 4 boys at the house, so I'm just thinking of like, okay, what do I teach my kids that might be something that, these other kids might need to know. And, I get a lot of my inspiration, Buzz Williams. He does a lot of stuff like that. So, I go on some things and I just look at it and try to tailor it towards, what's our background for our guys? And then how can we turn around and make them better men? Because again, I always tell them the ball will stop bouncing one day, and this game can teach you a ton about life if you allow it. So that's what we do. We do it every Monday. We're passionate about that. It's maybe 10 to 15 minutes. I get a little snippet of usually about a minute and a half, 2 minutes of it, and then post it out there to, if it does encourage. I've had, several coaches around the country just ask me about what I do, and I share it with everybody.
Awesome.
This isn't, like I said, we're coaches, we're pretty much all thieves anyway. We take from, little bits of all coaches from around. And, and I'm one that, man, I've had a lot of coaches help me to get where I'm at. And so I'm all for helping and doing all those things to help anybody else.
I think it's awesome that you put those videos out there and encouraging that guys are, contacting you, asking about it, because I think what that shows is that, I don't know if you've ever felt this way, that a lot of guys do this. A lot of guys are having culture sessions and going through lessons and things. But that might not be true, because basketball, if basketball's the main thing, well, there's so much just to do with that. that can occupy
Oh,
all your time. And it's really easy just to focus on that and forget the character piece, forget the fact that, pouring into their lives and them becoming the best sons, husbands, employees one day. Like that's the most important thing. So I think your videos, uh, if a guy maybe has forgotten that piece, it kind of maybe triggers or that a little bit.
yeah, and that's where I don't mind. I think the same thing that where I focused at 2 years ago is completely different. And with
Right.
COVID kind of putting us where we're sitting at the house not doing anything, you just reevaluate. And you're like, okay, why am I doing what I do? And at the point where you're like, okay, we've had some things in life that just kind of humble us. And when those things happen, you kind of step back and be like, okay, what am I doing? And then why am I doing it? And we ask that question a lot to our players is why. And that's the thing, like, why do you play basketball? Why, what, not just because I'm out here and I like to play the game, but there's a deeper why behind it. And we dig deep into our players. It's not just we want them to play good on the floor, but again, you're only going to play for so long. And if I can teach them, or our coaches can teach them, the better aspects of life, then man, it's a whole lot more worth it, than wins and losses at the end.
How do you live out your culture on a daily basis?
Well, so my motto is coaching is they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and we live that out daily in everything that we do. That's from, we have what we call sunrise shooting in the morning. So our guys get up and they shoot, 6:45 to 7:30. They're getting around 200 to 300 shots up before they go to school. And we some of the things that we do as far as like, for schoolwork, we have grade sheets. And so these guys turn in a grade sheet to us every week. And they have to make sure their teachers sign it. There's things like that. So we're holding them accountable. Again, it's just more than basketball. And so we hold them accountable in the classroom, and anything under an 80, there's a consequence for it. So again, these guys they're seeing that it's not just about how good can I be on the floor. Again, we talked about Man Up Monday too, things that we do every single day.
Let me ask, because I like to dig deep with some of these things, because I love the idea. What would you call the shooting thing?
We call it sunrise shooting.
Sunrise. I love that.
Yeah.
Sunrise shooting. What time does school start?
Our school starts at 7:55.
Okay, so you give them about that 25
Yeah,
minutes or so,
and that's just in case if they want to shower, or if they, whatever they want to do. Because once again, with UIL rules, we're not allowed to do, we're not doing all that stuff. So we pretty much just have a planned thing for them. And so they get in those shots, and then we're out. Like I said, by 7:30, they're pretty much done.
I noticed you had a shot chart, like, of how many guys have made or something. You put a great graphic out with that.
Yeah.
You have pretty good, a lot of guys coming in the morning to do that, eager to do that, or
yeah, we're averaging about 20 to 25 kids.
Incredible.
And that's our high school kids. Now I have a middle school son that comes because he does have a choice, but
let's go.
It's a seventh grader. And my whole goal is to kind of get this started also in what we call the middle school, the 7th and 8th graders. But yeah, we have a lot of kids, and I it's not my idea. That the coach before me had this set up. We were very fortunate to be able to come into a place that loves basketball.
Nice.
And so it's and he did a great job. He's now at Allen, and so he's going to do a great job there. And so it's one.
I want to meet with him. I think
it's awesome.
We were at a coach's kind of roundtable at the Colony together. And man, everything that he was saying, I actually, his magnet deal, I already borrowed it.
Oh, and we do that through sunrise shooting. And so a lot of our stuff is, and so we have, I think there's 21 shooting drills that we have records on. And so like these guys, we'll get up and get some warm up shots up, and a little bit of, getting your blood flowing, and then they just compete. And they're going at it. There's time on the clock. They put the time on, and if they can beat it, they beat it. And if not, then they're just always competing against each other.
That's good stuff. With the grade sheets, so I don't know. Yeah. I'm blanking on what coach I was listening to, but it's kind of a older school guy. But it was Coach Mayo. He said over the years he never looked at grades. He never went to a teacher to talk about grades and how he said his players understood that it was, and the parents understood that it was on them to do that. Now that when I heard that, that terrified me.
Yeah, like that does me too.
Just to, but because I've done grade sheets like that, and so kind of what's the feedback like? I guess if it's just like anything else, if you set the standard of this is what we're going to do, then the kids just kind of fall in line with that. Your 80 policy is aggressive, and I like that. So tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I was at a USA clinic the other day, and Duncanville's coach, was talking about it too. They do the same thing, and PV was it's one of those where you're trying to teach the kids how to be accountable, and it's not their parents' issue. It's not my issue. It really in all aspects is their issue. And so what we want to do is teach them if there's a problem, they've got to go back and figure out how to work that problem out. It's okay if I can go on our Skyward stuff and I can check their grades and I can do all that. Well, we're not teaching them anything.
Yeah.
And it goes back to our culture. I want you to be, when you leave our program, I want you to be somebody that can contribute to society, whether you go to college or anything like that. But, this right here, you're on a weekly basis. It'll tell you attendance. Teachers have to sign it. It's just a one sheet thing. So there's 8 classes on it. And the feedback I've gotten from teachers is they love it. Nice. Because and that's what, when I sent it out, it was like, I don't want to, we already do a ton of work as a teacher, and I don't want something to be even more work. Yeah. But I also never want to have an issue with a player in a classroom. And so this allows us to kind of open that communication up, and I'll talk a little bit later on in some of the questions, but we have one-on-one meetings with our players every week. And this is something that we talk about. We pull up that grade sheet and it's like, hey, I see it, either you're struggling in this class, and at that time we can help to say, hey, you need a tutor. Do we need, things that we can do to kind of get in front of it instead of just looking at grades and go, oh man, when you're on the line, you got to go correct it. Well, that doesn't work for kids. We hear, older generations say it all the time. It's a different generation of kids, and we have to adapt to them. And if we don't do that as coaches, then we're just going to phase ourselves out.
So you also talked about your Man Up Mondays. What else do you do with culture? Just how do you guys live it out?
Yeah. So, and another one that we've started, and this one's a little different, but we do yoga together. It's one that, I found that here we've had a lot of kids with their, bad knee injuries, ankle injuries, and, I've got some good friends that are in either the college level, or higher of, hey, asking them, how do I correct or how do I help kids? Like we had a kid that's broken his leg, or right below his kneecap in one leg, and tore his ACL in the other. And he's a senior this year. Great player. But at the same time, his knee's always hurting. And so, and I had some videos, and, they're in the weight room, and they're when they jump, their knees kind of almost come together. And, and he was like, look, he goes, man, you're going to think I'm crazy. He said, but it's not a knee or ankle issue. It's a hip issue. And I was like, well, okay, then how do we do that? And he's like, man, he goes, do yoga. And so what I did is we just started partnering together with a local person here that comes in the mornings. And so, we do yoga in the Tuesday mornings before school, and then we do yoga Thursday afternoons after school. That's awesome. And again, it's one of those things where I want our players to understand that we're going to do everything that we can on our side to help them out. Yep. And it goes back to, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yep. That ties into everything that we do.
Yeah, we started Alan Stein back in the day when he was doing Stronger Team clinics. He did one here at Faith, and he talked about yoga with his players, and he used this. It's yoga hoops. And so I went right out and I bought the DVD, and it's a 20-minute long workout. And it's kind of funny. It's a guy, I think he used to be in the NBA, but I didn't know his name. But he takes you basically through a yoga workout, but for all of the moves, he tells you how it can help your game. And some of them are super corny, and like the guys snicker. And so I was like, the downward dog will help your hips and release you for your rebounding. And you're like, okay. But I was amazed at how the guys, so we do it every Wednesday and Saturday in That's season, awesome. Not outside of season, but in season, but they look forward to it. And the times where we don't do it, they kind of call me out a little bit on it.
Right.
So yeah, there's something to that for sure.
Yeah, and that's our and the kid with the knee problems. He's like, man, I've never really felt any better than this after I've had this. So, hopefully we can, help, at least if we just help him. It's important again, and it's injury prevention also.
Yep.
Just to help
you
out
don't
as best
really
we can.
know. I always tell the guys, you don't know the injuries that you're preventing by doing this.
Right.
Yeah. So it's more than just that used to hurt. It doesn't hurt anymore. You might be sidestepping some huge landmines in your future.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skill Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NIA and NJCAA to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 10-minute, 100-shot test can be taken for free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game.
What daily habits set you up for success?
And coming from, my faith is the first thing we do is just reading the Bible every morning, getting up and just being humbled to be able to do that. And, one of the things that I've stolen from other coaches is I have a calendar that I've planned my days in advance. I plan my week in advance, and I have a daily calendar that I can tell you what I've done since 2012. And it's one of those where, my wife will kind of make fun of me a little bit, but, I'm very detailed of it because there's so much that goes on, like you said earlier, like just coaching basketball is a ton of work, and to do it right. Like there's so many things you want to get done. And so to have it all organized for me is huge. Cause I showed the time management, the one I think you looked at just a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
We talked about time management on Monday. And so, and I encouraged our players. It's like, look, this is just something that it could help, whether you want to do it or not, or, but it's just a calendar that's a daily calendar. Then it turns into a weekly and a monthly calendar, just because it gives you an idea of things that you've done, and I'm kind of a weird, it's maybe, I guess, a little bit of OCD or whatever, but
no, I think it's awesome.
I color code it, and there's different things like different days. I know that if it's on
Buzz
Monday,
Williams,
if I get
man.
it done,
it's Buzz Williams.
Yeah, Well, and I guess I say a lot of it is from him, and I did it before, but I did it in a little bit different. Like I used to have it in my old where they I can flip through and actually a calendar that I write stuff down in, but then I got to the point where it was like I didn't always have it on me, and so to write things down, I would put something in my phone, then I turn around and write it in the calendar. And so now I do it on Google Docs. And so I have everything. So if I just need to, add something to it, I pull it up real quick, put it in there. But that's a huge thing for me as far as my daily habits, because again, there's so much to get done, especially as a head coach, as a teacher, and everything else that goes inside of just the school system, that to me, I tell them, if you don't write it down, you'll forget. It doesn't matter how good you think your memory is. You'll forget what you do 5 hours ago, 5 minutes ago. And so that's some of the things, like we have our practice plan. I write all over our practice plans. And it might be something that I'm thinking about, hey, we need to do, or, inside of our practice for next week, or it's just something I'm like, okay, I forgot. I need to talk to the players about this, and I'm writing things down. But that's another habit that it's, I give a practice plan to each of our coaches and encourage them to keep a pen on them, and just so that if something comes up, just write it down. And then we also keep a binder, all of our coaches, of all of our practices, things we do. And so that way, when we go back in, you can always think, well, when did I implement that, or when did I do that? But if you don't have it down, you're like, even written down, you can plan it, but really, how did it go? And so what that does is allow me to go back in, and I can flip through, I keep them in order, so I can flip through and go, okay, we implemented it here, it worked well, but maybe this didn't. And so maybe I can change something for next time. But it's, that stuff is just keeping up with stuff that we do daily, and not thinking we can just remember it when it comes up this next time.
I got one ask already from just with talking with you. If you're willing to share what that calendar looks like with me,
absolutely.
I would appreciate that. Would make us, that we'd be even right there. Just that.
Yeah, no. I'll share it as soon as we get done. That's no big deal at all. I love it. It's like I said, it gets kind of weird, but it helps me to stay organized.
I think I'm a little weird, and so
I think if you coach, you have to be.
That's
a little
right.
Bit, especially now.
There's not many normal dudes out there that do. Right. I think do what we do. So.
when we
That's
put in the
awesome.
hours, you start looking at it. It's like, no, we don't do it for that. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those that, you know, it's just fun to watch these kids.
What's one thing that makes your program different?
So we, you know, and I think with the Suns and all that, you know, made it really, you know, popular this end of the last year. Like, we call people up, we don't call them out. You know, we are not a group that's going to be, you know, cussers, screamers, hollowers. You know, what we're going to do is, you know, yeah, we're going to be hard on you. And my biggest thing is we're going to be demanding without being demeaning.
Right.
And especially in today's kids, you know, when you start being demeaning to them, and they check out.
Yeah.
And so we call them up. It's one of those things that it's hard, because it's not our natural instinct.
Right.
Our natural instinct is to yell at people, you know, especially, I mean, when I look at it as being a dad, and, you know, and really you're just turning around and being a father figure to these kids on the floor. You know, how would I want my son to be treated? How would I want to be treated? You know, if I was a player, and would I want to play for myself as a coach? And so we have a high standard in what we do. But at the same time, we're not going to demean you at all. And I think that it helps go back to the culture aspect of it, of why we do what we do, and why we do it every day.
Yeah, that's powerful. I think I get to ask coaches quite a bit, what's one thing that you would do differently? And I love hearing, especially from older coaches that have you know, I'm only in my year 15, so it hasn't been that, I'm still making tons of mistakes and learning every day, but
every day
already, so I got to play for basically Bobby Knight's first assistant and Dave Bliss. And there's a part of the way that he communicated and taught that was a lot like Bobby Knight, just the harshness of it.
Yeah.
And so when I started coaching, that was really my style. Like I kind of was proud of that. And so, like, one thing, there's been two things in my life that have just been game changers. One is, you know, 9 years ago when I was 30, was recommitting my life to Christ. Like, huge shift in how I coached and talked to players. Another was directing for PGC, because they are right in line with that. And so basically my first PGC session, I got just tons of feedback of, you're demeaning, you're belittling, there's no relationship. And so those two things, I would love to go back in time. One, apologize to all of those teams and all those kids that it was just so transactional, not transformational in any way. Right. And everything that you're saying is that transformational type of coaching, where those kids they're not always going to be happy, and they're not always going to love you, but they're going to invite you to their wedding.
Yes. And
they're going to remember those lessons for sure.
Well, and that's one of the things too that sets us apart. And you know, I know most coaches do this, but like you said, it's just the way you do it. We just tell them the truth. You know, we're not going to beat around the bush on things. And I think people get away from that. You know, they want to say, like, I maybe tiptoe around, or if they say it, they just want to say it straight up, and not again, that's a demeaning way, instead of, you know, because it takes a different aspect of you to be able to say it without being demeaning. Yeah. Because if you don't think that way, it's really hard to coach that way. Yeah. And so, you know, we tell them the truth, and sometimes they get defensive in that, and when we talk about it. But again, it's just I look at it as it's a growing aspect. You know, they've learned one way, or they've seen one way. And so when you tell them the truth and they get defensive, well, there's a reason why. And so now we go back again to the why question is, you know, and without knowing them, then you don't know how to coach them, because you can't coach every kid the same. And so that's a lot of what we do to get into is talking to them on a daily basis and really getting to know who they are.
Yeah, one thing we always ask, do you guys want truth or do you want harmony? And I think because deep down, they've been given a lot of harmony over the years.
Yes.
And any truth that they've gotten has been negative. So of course, coach, give me harmony, which means everything's fine. What you're doing is great. Nothing to change. Don't get uncomfortable. But then if we can live in a world of, we are going to tell each other the truth, but we understand that that's coming from love and it's coming from the right place, golly, you can get a lot accomplished that way.
Oh, absolutely. And, and I think again, these kids nowadays talk at each other. It's one of those things where instead of being able to encourage and talk with each other or to each other, they talk at each other. And so teaching them that aspect of that doesn't help. And so when you're asking them to communicate, not just on the floor, but when they start doing that and they learn how to do that, then it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah. And giving them opportunities to practice that.
Absolutely.
A lot of coaches will say, we got to communicate better.
Yeah.
I want my teams to talk better. But then as coaches, we dominate the conversation 99% of the time. So how are they going to learn? Except for us giving them opportunities, even if it's after a drill, guys get together with one partner, 20 seconds each, give feedback to what you saw and teach them how to be active listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what Coach Show talks about the communication circles. And we do that. We'll end practice with communication circles of being able just to talk and communicate. And again, like you said, probably 95% of coaches are going to be saying, well, I wish my team communicate better. But yet, what are we teaching them? Or how are we teaching that? And that's like you said, that's a great way of, after drills, go in there, talk to them, get them a chance, because we love to dominate. We love to talk. And don't
everything we have to say is so important. Everything we have to say.
And then after about 7 seconds, they tuned us out. So it's like, let's just go on to something else.
And another point. Point.
And they're thinking about, what am I eating after, when I'm going home or whatever? What's my girlfriend doing or something?
Everything that you've said is really good. But what's inspiring is the fact that you actually do it. Because there's so many great ideas, great concepts. But when you actually have to put it into practice, because it's time, those are all time units that you have to figure out, and you're going to give 30 seconds for them to talk. Well, that's 30 seconds that you can't do shell drill anymore.
Right.
And, or if you do that, and, there's a whole Tyler Costin with PGC can't stand shell drill. So don't do, but, it's impressive that you work all those things into it.
Well, and I think, again, it just goes back into what do we emphasize, because it's what you emphasize is what you get. And so if we want to emphasize communication, then you've got to plan it. And again, I'll go back to Buzz. Buzz talks about communication with this generation, that, they're the generation that can communicate and has the most communications, but they can't talk to each other. So they all can, if they're sitting in a room, they would rather text each other or Snapchat each other or whatever than, hey, let's put the phones down and talk face to face. And that's one of the things where, again, it's a learning experience. Like we do, we'll do this, and we'll go to a tournament, and we'll stay at I like doing a lake house, if we can do a lake house, or a big Airbnb or whatever we can do, and we have it where there's no cell phones. And so the kids are crazy because they're thinking, I've got to, we'll give them a little bit of time, but it's like, hey, no, this is, not only are we playing, but at the same time, this is a chance for us to be able to bond together. And it's just one of those bonding events, and it's by the end of the weekend, it's fun because you get to talk. We'll have sessions of things that kids get to communicate and be able to open up. And, again, it's all about relationships, and that's what we're trying to build.
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
How do you build confidence in your players?
And I'll go back to what I just said. To me, it's about relationship. If they know and they understand that, when you're talking to them or how you're talking to them is not a demeaning way, then what you can do is build that inside of a kid, because we talk about it all the time. You're going to make mistakes. Kids nowadays hate to make mistakes. Again, because you go back to the phones. Everything is recorded. Everything is, it's posted before it's even finished. And so when they make a mistake, they're so afraid to think that they're going to be on somebody's, video or somebody's timeline or somebody's. And so what we tell them all the time, we want you to go so hard that you're making mistakes, especially in practice, and to not be afraid of it. And that's that confidence of, if they make a mistake, it's not that we're blowing the whistle, we're yelling at them, we're screaming at them. It's like, no. So, if you make a mistake and you don't understand, then we're just going to sub somebody in and we're going to go coach you on the side. That way we're not stopping practice. We're not, but when you have different sets of eyes that can go in and run drills and you have coaches that are seeing it, then we can teach within 5 to 10 seconds of them making a mistake and go right back in to try to correct it. And I think that's a big thing for us to build confidence in our players, that they see it. They see that they made the mistake, or maybe they don't. We're able to talk to them really quick, answer the questions, show them the correction, and then get them right back in to do it again. And then that way it's a consistent thing for them to see that, hey, it's okay. You're going to make mistakes, but I want you to have confidence out there playing.
I think that awareness that you have, and I think a lot of coaches do have it, but we forget sometimes that a majority of these kids, these players, aren't trying to make mistakes.
Right.
Like they're not just saying, screw you, coach.
That's for sure.
Oh, you want this? And then something completely.
Yeah.
Those moments pop up, but then, man, there's usually something deeper there, right, like a deeper heart issue or something going on inside of the kid. But once we establish that, I think one of the things you probably have are clear standards. Mm-hmm. What erodes confidence in players are when their standards aren't clear of what's the expectation for this possession, for what the position that I'm in. Mm-hmm. But that's where the art of it, right? That's where we come in and we set those standards so that when a player makes a mistake, they know what the standards are, and then we don't have to have emotion. Like, mistake doesn't have to mean emotion followed up, from it, right?
Right. That's good. Well, and I think that same thing is, especially dealing with our younger players, that, we told them the other day that we're not going to lower our standards to your attitude. These guys, and again, they're learning us. So it's a new staff for us this year, new school. And, and we're telling them, like, look, just because you have attitude and maybe it's worked for you in the past, it's not. This is our standard. And it doesn't matter really what happened this last year or 2 years or 3 years ago, that if you get attitude, then this is what's going to happen every time you do it. And again, like you said, it's something that you don't differ away from. So once it happens, it's, hey, immediately, here's the consequence. Let's go get it and then go back to it. And I think it all goes back to it's not something that you just say get emotional about. It's, hey, you did it. Here's what happened. Let's do the consequence and go right back into it. It's no hard feelings. It's just a learning experience of it all. And I think one of the things that we do, and I don't know how many high school coaches they do it, but what we do is we bring in a sports psychologist on, we call it our mental Fridays. And so we bring in a guy that works on the mental side for us. And it's a guy that we had, this is his second year working with our program, and he does a great job. Comes in and again, I always love building our programs like it's a college level program. And what can we do to help our athletes get there? Because we have some guys that are pretty high level athletes here this year. And so again, it's another step of how do we not only train the physical body, how do we not only train them on the court, but the mental side is so important. Because again, we don't know where they've come from. We don't know what they've done. We don't know what they think. But if we can help them train their mind, and it goes back into yoga, the breathing things, all that stuff helps these athletes to be able to understand and how to play. And when they're not playing good, how do you get out of it instead of just saying it's just a bad game? And so we're really working on the mental side of things.
Coach, that's next level. I don't think I've heard of anybody doing that. I think as coaches, we try to do that. We fill that role in some way, even though we're not professionals in that arena at all. But you bring somebody in. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, and this is a guy that's getting his business up and running. He won a state title as a player, and really worked on his mental side of it. And then he went to college for it. And it's I'm from the East Texas area. So when I was back down where I was kind of close to home, we just kind of made a connection with each other, and he worked with us with our team from last year. And it's one that it's awesome because it trains a side that doesn't hardly ever get trained, except if you're like ING, or then all of a sudden you look at Alabama, Clemson, all those guys that bring these high level guys in, like you were talking about Allenstein, all those guys, that obviously we can't afford at the high school level. And so what I just kind of sought out was somebody that could come in, and again, I don't always want to be the one that the voice that our kids hear, because they'll tune us out. Yeah. And so if I can bring other guys in or other people in that will do that, like this guy's awesome. He travels 3 hours, an hour and a half one way and an hour and a half back, to speak for 15 to 20 minutes on Friday mornings. And sometimes Thursdays, depending, like this week, we're out of school Friday. So he's coming Thursday, come tomorrow morning. And he comes in and he does a phenomenal job of just going in, talking with our guys, asking them questions that they don't, a lot of times they don't think about. And then learning how to train, because it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. And so it's really kind of learning who they are and then tailoring how we can help them to train that mental side. What's
the daily schedule for your school look like in athletic periods and things like that?
So ours is in the middle of the day. So, we have 8 periods. And so school starts at 7:55, and then our 5th period is our athletic period. And so we have athletics from about 11:45 to 12:30.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm trying to think. I mean, it just sounds like you do so much.
Well, and we do this in the mornings. So it's one of those things, like, again, when we talk about yoga, with it being so important to us, we do it a day instead of doing sunrise shooting. And so it's like, hey, here's the time, and our guys do a great job of getting in the gym. They're always texting us coaches, hey, can we get in the gym? Can we get in the gym? And so they love getting in the gym. Again, we're at a bigger town, or a bigger city, smaller town kind of feel. There's not much around. And so it's just our town, which is awesome. It's great.
The sweet spot right there.
Yes, exactly right. So, these kids are, it might be 8 o'clock on a Saturday night and we're getting a text saying, hey, coach, can you open the gym? Well, I'm absolutely, I'm not going to tell you no. And my wife will be like, come on. No,
that's right. I don't know if she's there in the background.
Yeah, she just gave me the look as they walked in. So, but it's one of those too, where it's we live 5 minutes from the gym, so it's not hard. It's not bad for us.
Yeah.
But again, we like tomorrow morning, we'll do sunrise shooting. We're going to bring them in. So we do sunrise shooting till 7:30, and then we're right into the locker room, and we go for them. We'll give them a chance, 15, 20 minutes, and then they go to class. And so it's one of those, I go back to my schedule. It's how do I do that? How do I, detail it out to get in everything that we want to get in as much as we do want to pour into the program.
You had alluded to this a little bit earlier about when you meet with players, and I think you said you meet with each of them every week. And so I'm very curious, how and when do you meet with players? And I think that's an area where, kind of along the same lines of what would you do differently? I think every coach would love to meet more.
Well, and again, I just started this year. I had it on my list the last 2 years of like, how do I do this? And like you said, we all would love to do a lot of stuff, but how do we fit it into our schedules? And so the way that it's worked great for us this year is we lift after school. So UL has given us that extra, hour after school to be able to do strength and conditioning and lift. Mm-hmm. And so we lift our JV guys, our freshmen and JV guys lift right after school. And so it gives us about 30 to 45 minutes to be able to, for our varsity guys to not have time to really go home or do anything. So I use that time to be able to, and I put down, it's 5 minutes, and I'll put my phone out, I hit the timer, and I'm like, okay, we got 5 minutes, and that way we can roll through them. And what I've done is just kind of, I have questions, and I want them to be able to, feel free to ask and answer any question about me if they want. I ask them just to get to know them better. Again, it's another part of building relationships with them. We ask some are superficial questions, some get harder, get deeper. Again, as you build that relationship with them. But that's something that's to me is, especially taking over a new program, is how to get to know them as quick as possible. And so taking that time instead of me, the JV guys and the JV coaches are in the locker room or in the weight room with them. I'm taking that 30, 45 minutes for me to be able to meet with them and talk to them, on a weekly basis.
That's huge. Yeah. At that same meeting where the Allen coach was mm-hmm. there, the head coach at Wakeland, Coach Lee, was there too. And one of the questions came up was meeting with guys. And he had this idea, he calls them 10-minute meetings, where the first 5 minutes he asks questions. The second 5 minutes, it's their time. So they have to be prepared, because, how often do they really get to know us besides the information that we choose to let them know? Yeah. And so I started that at the beginning of the school year, and I think I'm in round 3. And I just use this a little app. What is it? Oh, Sign Up Genius, where I put the times and I let them go pick the times that they want. And I have my timer, I set it out, but I've been blown away by some of the questions that they've asked, and it's been great. And then also you see how sometimes kids aren't prepared, and so they're searching for, just random things. But I feel like already he said that it takes like the rounds 4, 5, or 6 to where you really start to break down. So I'm excited to get to that point with them.
Well, and that's what when we have it, we end it, with that they can talk about anything. I don't like this in practice. I don't, or I like this. I want them to feel comfortable. And I told them, it's like, hey, it's like a confession kind of deal. Like, you can talk, and I'm not going to hold it against you. It's not one like I want us to be able to have that freedom. I said, because like in a timeout in a game in the fourth quarter, I want to be able to say, hey man, what do you see on the floor that I'm not seeing that we can do? And without that trust, and without that, with us being able to talk, then we never would be able to understand each other to be able to grow that relationship.
That's good. And I really think I love the fact that you put such an emphasis on spending time with those guys individually. I think we do a lot of spending time with the group, so the team, like those meetings that you have where you're talking about the culture, time management, those are great, but there's something about that one-on-one time and giving them the freedom to speak and everything. I think that's huge. Coaches, the one thing that every team needs is confident shooters. The last 8 years at Grapevine Faith, our teams have averaged 354 made threes each season. I love getting to share with coaches how our shooters train, and more importantly, how they think. If you would like to enhance your shooting culture at your school, contact me directly at jamodipodcast@gmail.com. All right, man. This has been awesome. You ready for the speed round?
I'll try. Here we go.
Okay, quick questions. First thing that pops in your head.
Okay.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, cookies and cream.
For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Major shot clock.
Thank you. Texting or talking?
How do you say that? Like the girls coach emailed me today and said that Texas is going to it next year, and I didn't see it. And I was like, wait a minute, I haven't seen. But they said it's a new rule that's being adopted into 22, 23. Now, I was trying to search it. I didn't have time to do much research on it, but I was like, wait a minute, what? I would love it. I think we're not preparing our kids for the next level without a shot clock.
Yeah, I've heard very few arguments for why there shouldn't be one. Like are good arguments, and and I think the best point I ever heard was just besides the fact that it'd be another person that has to run it and all of those problems. The other thing was just it would take an advantage away from inferior teams, or the teams that really don't have the talent to go up. They wouldn't have as much of a chance, because everybody knows the better team, the superior team, wants more possessions, and the shot clock will instantly do that.
Absolutely.
So that's been the only thing. Everybody else, though, most people want it. I'm out here in private school world in TAP, so it'll probably be UIL, and I'll be sitting here and just waiting and wondering. But that'd be great.
I hope so.
Texting or talking?
Ooh, I text a lot more than I talk.
I think a lot of us.
My wife's over here going, "Yes, you do." Like
the phone conversations are short, but you can get a text back real quick.
Yes, and I can have multiple of those going on at one time. That I can't have phone conversation.
But you only focus on that talk with your wife when you never have multiple conversations. When
never, I put the phone away. Everything that I should be doing. Right.
Yes. I'm helping you. Major points happen. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Invisibility or super strength?
Ooh, I would say super strength.
Okay. If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
I would go back because just to meet Jesus would be fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Place you most want to travel?
Bora Bora.
Nice. 2 more. How many cups
right.
of coffee do you drink per day?
0. It's a weird energy. My wife says, I don't understand it. But like, I don't sleep much. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink anything caffeinated. I don't drink carbonated drinks. It's pretty much just water.
Brandon, we've been pretty aligned with a lot of things. Like I've actually been sitting here thinking I could work for this guy. Like I could be your assistant. I think we'd have a lot of fun and get to do some amazing things. And then you drop the no coffee thing.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you a quick story. One of the reasons why is like my dad would drink like 2 pretty much pots of coffee every morning, and I had to make them. And so like I was going, I don't want to do this. Like
you're a little
I'm
bitter.
just like, I like the smell. It smells great, but I do not want to drink it. Like I'm fine with that.
That's fair. Last one, Godfather or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Nice. The Force is strong.
Yeah. So
a lot of coaches want to say Godfather, and I think
maybe the older ones, because I think it's a different generation with that.
I think there's just more coaches out there that, I mean, truly, if you understand the light and the dark, it just makes a lot of sense,
right?
For coaches. I really enjoyed this time with you, and I learned a lot of cool stuff, and you made me think, inspired me really in a lot of ways to do some things better. So, man, I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me on. And like I've said, anything that I can do to help or anything like that, I'm all for it. And, I love these things, especially I think with COVID, it's made it really a lot more for us to be able to get together. So I'd love to be able to do this anytime we can.
Awesome. Well, the only ask that I have is that when we're done here, you send me that Google Calendar so I can.
I will.
I mean, not so I know everything that you're doing.
Oh, hey, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, but I to help me stay more organized. If there's a better way of doing it, man. But
right,
man, best of luck this year, and
thank
you so much again for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.